And our very first paper this morning on a Friday morning takes us straight to Nigeria. This Nigeria will be our very first paper. As you can see there on the front page, military captures 79 terrorists, collaborators. Buhari meets 23 freed Abuja-Kaduna train passengers. In Niger Delta, troops deactivate 74 illegal refineries, apprehend 39 vandals. And we also have that big picture at the front of this Nigeria, return of the Jagaban. That's what it says. And who do you have there? Well, it's no other than the presidential candidate for the All Progressives Congress, APC. That's Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, alighting from the aircraft at the NAMDA International Airport in Abuja after 2 weeks in the United Kingdom yesterday. So certain that he was going to make a comeback, even though he was missing at the peace treaty, where things were indeed going on and questions were asked where he was. But here he is. So Nigerians can now have a sigh of relief, can heave a sigh of relief and say, yes, he's finally here. But let's move on to other stories, no doubt. At the top, world economy would suffer contraction in 2023, IMF says. Really? Well, read up. You find it on page 15. I'll just take a few more. Woman flogs 3-year-old to death in Anambra. That should be one of the stories in our front burner this very morning. As we take a look at molestation, abuse and all that, yes, that's it. But we'll also look at how house helps and also how others are treated, especially children. What are the organizations that deal with this? What do they have to say? We'll talk about that. You find the story on page 10. ASUU will sue federal government over CONUA NAMDA creation, says Falana. Page 5. Of course, you know, he's at the forefront making sure that the education system is also working, especially in front of the judiciary. Ex-Governor Status Rivers Assembly delist Omeya, ask him to refund 600 million naira legally earned. Wike to sign cancellation order today. So many stories you can read up. This Nigeria is loaded with news from Nigeria.
Fantastic. And of course, once again, kudos to those families who have gotten their loved ones back after the military's operation. Let's move to First News newspapers this morning and see what we can find. The big one there says, no deal. Strike. Federal government and ASUU spat lingers as government and union fail to agree on out-of-court settlement. Appeal court begins hearing of ASUU's application challenging industrial court's ruling. Also, Nigerian troops neutralize 24 terrorists, arrest 42 logistics suppliers. 34-year-old Burkina hunter chief becomes world's youngest leader. And of course, we spoke about that not in the news this morning. We can also find here, I've successfully managed Nigeria's security crisis. Buhari as he visits freed train passengers in NDA hospital. Wike to sign de-recognition of Omeya as ex-governor today. Okay. As Rivers government withdraws criminal charges against Amechi, Cole and others. Oil theft prevention won't succeed unless, that's from Asari Dokubo. Nigerian troops neutralize 24 terrorists. I think we spoke about that already. And neutralize 42 logistics suppliers. We can find also pickpockets steal ex-VP Namadi Sambo's phone in Abuja book launch amid tight security. All right. Bandits release DPO after 90 days in captivity, payment of additional ransom. Abductors collected 7 million earlier, kidnapped ransom bearer, demanded more money and motorcycles. Yes, it's Fuji House of Commotion. You know that really it's a perfect depiction. And of course, the Tinubu returns from London trip amid rumored ill health, received at airport by Shetima Oshiomhole and APC chieftains. These are the big ones on the First News this morning.
All right. Away from First News, let's go straight to Kenya with the Daily Nation. That front page on the Daily Nation, I can tell you, it's fully loaded. Bad day for graft suspects. Yes, bad day for them. Crime. Waluki told to pay 727 million shilling fine. Wakungu to pay 707 million shillings. Let's take a look at some of these suspects. You find them there on the front page there. Well, let's start off with John Wakuli. Sirisia MP risks losing his seat as court upholds his jailing for 67 years in maize scandal. So he's involved in maize scandal. That's that story there. And what about the lady you find on the front page? Well, that is Grace Wakungu. Now, she started the remainder of her 69-year prison term over maize scandal yesterday. All right. So she's also part of the maize scandal. You might want to read about it. You find it inside of the Daily Nation. There are two others on the front page amidst the numbers that indeed is not what we can cover here on the front page. But let's take other stories concerning the Daily Nation in Kenya. MPs fight as Wetangula rules Kenya Kwanza has majority. MPs fight. What are they fighting for? Well, Raila's Azimio side protests at ruling by the National Assembly Speaker that William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza is a majority party in parliament with 179 MPs against Azimio's 157. So what's the fight for? You can read up to find out. And there we can see that man there, the president, talking about Ruto. Safaricom sets up shop in Ethiopian regional expansion. And in world news, just a month to COP27 host, Egypt faces the heat. Why are they facing the heat? What's going on? You want to find out? And this one rings an alarm. Yes, it does for Africa. WHO issues global warning on 4 killer cough syrups. What are these killer cough syrups? You want to know their name, what they look like, so you do not buy them for your children because they are in Africa. You should pick up the Daily Nation, read all about it, identify the drug, and avoid it.
All right, let's move now to Zimbabwe and see what's on Newsday newspapers. It says there Zambia bails out starving Zim. And I'll read a little bit of what it says. It says neighboring Zambia has come to the rescue of Zimbabwe with 200,000 tons of maize to feed millions currently facing hunger in the country. Newsday has gathered plans by Zimbabwe to import 200,000 tons of maize from Malawi in May did not bear fruit after the deal was contested by the Malawi parliament in Lilongwe because tender procedures had reportedly been flouted. So those are the details on that story. Zambia bails out starving Zim. Also, ED blows top over government bureaucrats. The Newsday always has very few stories. So the final ones this morning, bribe-seeking nurses on the probe. That's on page 3. And Jacaranda Music Fest unites artists on page 14 of the Newsday newspapers.